This is the problem when the days get longer. I have more time to do videos on my day off. Anyway, this is a video response actually to a question that Republic Liberty, I believe, just emailed me. It's a two-parter. It's the Dead Sea Scrolls and what am I? Me. Rabbi John. Yes, Dead Sea Scrolls. He asked the question whether or not do I think that all the Dead Sea Scrolls have been uncovered and public. Now, I will tell you this. I'm going to expose something about myself, more than you know. I have always had an interest in the Dead Sea Scrolls and had studied the Dead Sea Scrolls in a school called the King's College. It was in a town called Barclay Manor, New York. And at the time, it was much more ecumenically open-minded. In other words, there were Catholics, Pentecostals, Anglicans, people of all different walks of life. And actually, one of the first earliest Messianic Christian or Messianic Jewish organizations, I'd come in contact with a person who was a Messianic Jew and not part of Jews for Jesus, which to this day breaks me out in hives whenever I'm within 20 feet of them. So if you are, sorry, you give me a rash. I did study the Dead Sea Scrolls, and at that time they were just starting to be opened up and they were starting to be freed. We had a real problem, we meaning academics that were not part of the Christian, particularly the Orthodox Roman Catholic and the Greek and Russian Orthodox were holding on to most of the documents. They had their hands on it. So the great thing was that somebody eventually just broke down and made copies of them and finally put them on the internet when it started to happen around 90. But before that, we only got bits and pieces and fragments, and we were translating them. And we found a lot of items. Do I think that the Vatican, he was asking if I thought the Vatican was hiding stuff. The Vatican is hiding a lot of stuff. And this is not just a conspiracy theory. Everybody knows. Every time, like for example, when they exposed the fact that we found the Gospel of Thomas, we meaning academics found the Gospel of Thomas, and exposed it to the world, and Elaine Pagels published the Gnostic Gospels, suddenly the Catholic Church turns around, raises their hands, and says, "Look, we've got two copies." Before that, we have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, they're holding on to stuff that we don't know. They're probably holding on to stuff that, don't forget, some guesstimate from the writers of the early church writers, there may have been over 100,000 in some cases, and this is just a guesstimation, documents of the Dead Sea Scrolls, of writings that no longer exist in the hands of the common person. Many of them of the Ebionite writers, who basically are like myself, who saw Jesus as a Messiah, as a Moshiach, in the small m sort of way, and not as a deity, and followed the earnest practices. I'm putting my phone out of the way so it doesn't interfere with the computer, with the camera, and believed that he was directing us as Hillel had directed us towards obedience to the Torah and to the writings, and towards peace and love, and not just, as the writer of Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah said, giving God lip service and not having a heart for God. So yes, I do think that the Vatican is holding on to, if that library was open to the public and everyone could get their hands on it, the view of Christianity as a specific, not to mention all the religions of the Middle Eastern times, would be a different, you'd have a different table to look at. We're very limited in what we have. Now, who am I? I am an Orthodox Jew. I am an Orthodox Jew. I was Brit Milad. I was circumcised by an Orthodox moil, and I was bar mitzvahed by an Orthodox rabbi. And my father's side of the family were shukets, were rabbinical butchers, and as you saw in my video, mein Gott ist auf dem Tisch. My grandmother was a very Orthodox woman. My father was not. He unfortunately was part of the 1st Army Division and walked into Auschwitz and found found the names of my family. They were burned, and walked out and said that God cannot love the Jews, and lost his faith. Unfortunately, I was there when my father died of cancer, unfortunately, in my 25th year, still trying to figure out what was right and what was wrong, and didn't have an answer for him at his deathbed, and that is a burden I'm going to have to carry with for the rest of my life. So, I'm an Orthodox Jew. I am ordained by the Universal Ebionites, though. I am an Ebionite Jew. Truly. Both sides of my family are Jewish. I am Orthodox, and I believe that Yeshua HaMashiach taught us many things, but he was not. He may have been, in the grand scheme of things, a son of God, a child like Isaiah, but I do not believe in him being a physical manifestation of God that would be thrown in the face of what the Torah teaches, thrown in the face of what the prophets teach. And that would be a sin, the greatest of sins. And it goes back to Deuteronomy 13. If we go hearkening after other gods, except for the one God that has no face and has no, whose name is so holy that we cannot even use it, except on special occasions, being Yom Kippur being one of them, that is who I am. I'm ordained by the Universal Ebionites, the Mandagi Mishkan, who you can look him up. And I am truly an Ebionite, not these Messianic Christians who call themselves Ebionites. True Ebionites do not believe in the divinity of Jesus, of Yeshua, and they are Unitarian in belief. There is no Trinity in my God. There is only one God. So, that's who I am, and that's what I am. Does that define me? Well, no. It begins to define what I think, but it doesn't define me who I am. And it shouldn't define who you are. Your God, your belief system should be your own. And I just want to do a shout out to everyone who has emailed me and asked me questions and asked me for guidance. Ultimately, you are your own rabbi. You face God alone. So that is my discussion of who I am and what I believe. So salvation comes from God, and as the Torah teaches, and also the Psalms and the Proverbs and also the prophets teach very clearly, that salvation comes from a repentant heart, not from a human sacrifice. Jesus taught us to be sacrifices to God, and that's not meaning drawing blood and cutting your throat. That means being a repentant human being and obeying his law, and obeying that law with your whole heart, with your whole mind, with your whole spirit, as the Shema teaches. So that's the down and dirty of Rabbi John. So I guess this is going to be the last video I'm going to send up before Shabbat. So good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, Bas Shalom, peace be to you, and Shalom Shalom.